as a bit of background, I was very keen to do this session with Robin. I was happy that he agreed to do it. Lots of the members of the innovation community are busy beavering away, building new things for Rails future, the new normal. So I don't think all companies fully understand the financing and the credits and incentives that are available to companies that are developing new solutions. So I'm not an expert at it. So that's why Robin is going to talk to us about it. Hopefully it will be of benefit to everybody. We have done a little nice agreement with PGR, and members of the group, if you are a paid member, then they're going to give you an hour's talk on the phone afterwards as advisory. So join up as a member if you're not a paid up member. That's it. And then if you are speaking as a question, actually, sorry, you've all explained who you are. So when you are raised, if you do have a question, it'd be quite good to understand the context of why you're asking the question as we go through. But feel free, I think, to jump in if you want to. And I'm going to hand over to Robin now.
Okay, Liam, thank you. I'm also a friend of Liam's, I hope. So, as I've already done my introduction, but for those that have come in a wee bit late, I'm Robin Nesbitt. I'm Sales Director of PGR Advisory. We're a chartered accountancy and regulated tax advisory based in Belfast and London. Now, as you notice from my title, I'm Sales Director. I will lay us open. I have no tax exams, accountancy exams. I look after the relationships of the clients all around the country, from Shetlands right down to Devon, Lincolnshire, back into Northern Ireland. I look after the client, and I do that hand-holding between any of the directors or any of the project operators. Today, what this is just giving you a very, very high level on what R&D is and what the tax credits can mean to a business. And from that, I'll answer your questions. I need to put a caveat on that. Technically, I might be able to answer little bits, but the caveat on that is if there's any questions that you have that become technical, or questions that you don't want to ask in front of maybe your competition or something really that you want to keep on the low down, we can set up a separate call. As Liam says, for members, you get a free hour. I'll have the technical advisor, a technical director who's a shareholder of the business on the call, and we can put the world to rights and give you any steer that you think you should have. I guess I've got a question for you. Who does know what R&D tax credits are? Just raise a hand if you do. Yeah, Emily does. And some aren't on video, so I don't know. Yeah, Craig does. Brilliant, these guys know what they are. From that, who has made claims or thinks it's not for them? Either or. So who's made a claim? Emily's made a claim. Brilliant.
Emily's clued up.
Clued up. You can take the rest. You can answer the technical stuff, Emily. So I take it from the ones that the rest of you haven't made a claim, and if you didn't know about it, you think it's not for you. And weirdly enough, I'll tell you what R&D tax credits are in a second. Weirdly enough, R&D tax credits have been going since 2002. And just under 90% of businesses who qualify to do an R&D tax claim with the HMRC still do not claim their money. From those remainder that are claiming, over half of those businesses that are claiming are not claiming enough, and that's from the HMRC. So the R&D tax credits is a relief from the HMRC on your corporation tax to help support companies that work on innovative projects in science and technology. Now, those projects do not have to be a hard product, what you can feel and touch. They could be something as simple as processes or efficiencies. But the overland factor is, and I'll come to the specific legislation piece in a bit, it's the head scratch factor of a professional, a confident professional that knows their job. If they can't get something to work and they have to tinker and tinker and tinker and get iterations, that's where you get a relief on your tax, and I'll show you a little breakdown as it gets boring. So from that, is there any little questions that you have or anything that I haven't made clear or you want to be understood on that?
I just had a question. If only, what is it? I forgot the statistic. You said 92% of companies aren't claiming.
Just under 90% of companies who qualify to make an R&D tax claim are not doing it. And the reasons for that is they don't know about it. If they do know about it, they think it's not for them. And then there is this really sad stat that accountants who look after clients, if they don't have the specialism in making the tax claims, they sometimes have told their clients they don't qualify because they're frightened to come to an outsourcer who could be perceived to be their competition to do the R&D claim in case we take their compliance work. That is not the case. We sign off non-competes, NDAs, the whole lot. We are not interested in taking someone else's dinner from their plates. We want to make sure that the money from the HMRC that's sitting there, something like 23.4 billion, has been put aside this year for R&D tax claims, and it's still not being claimed enough. Good question, Liam. So any more questions before I bore you to death with a PowerPoint presentation?
I think I could just jump in and say I totally endorse everything that Robin's saying there, and we found the process, especially working with someone that knows, as Robin said, knows what they're talking about, and it's not trying to distract you away from the core of what the account, as in how your relationship is with your accountant or anything. And yeah, we found the process really, really valuable to us, and you know, at the end of the day, you get money back, which it was not to be sneezed at. So yeah, no, I definitely endorse everything Robin's saying.
Thank you, Emily, and that is a valid point. This is all about getting money back into the business. Okay, it's either in hard cash back if you've overpaid corporation tax, or a reduction in corporation tax. The whole idea was behind the HMRC putting this into practice was the UK was becoming a service economy. People like me who don't add any products or do exporting, to allow them to get more money back into the business, to innovate more, to export more, bringing in more staff, more employees, which consequently turns the PAYE wagon. And that was the whole point of that. And it's still live, like what about 18 years later, and we're only 10% into the pot of people that can get money back. So listen, I'm going to share this little presentation. The point of this presentation is, you can tell me when you see it, please?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Look, the bit at the start here is going to be a little bit about us, who we are. I've already told you, we have been established the same year, believe it or not, as HMRC came up with the legislation. That's a coincidence. All the management team here are ex-Big Four, and we've done that to provide a corporate feel to SMEs, because if you go to PwC, EY, if you're not spending £50,000 a month with them, you'll either get a trainee or they won't give you the service. We know that there's a lot of companies out there who are needing the commercial advice to go forward and get a bit of support, and we do that. As you can see, our clients are from pre-revenue, not even getting money in, there's just innovation, right up to a 4.8 billion Spanish listed company. So if you drink beer, you probably drank out of one of the bottles that they've made in the UK. That's big. As you say there, we specialize in corporate finance and R&D tax credits. That's getting money and saving money. Interesting to note that we've never had a claim query in our time with doing these reports for our clients, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Taking a wee while to click on the next slide. Here we go. It's just a bit of a high ground. Richard was an ex-director in Ernst & Young. Richard Bullock, who started off life and doing a degree in engineering, has background in manufacturing, is now our technical director and a chartered accountant. And then you can see our tax director was head of mid-tier tax for PwC. The rest of our staff are trained in tax advice, but the difference between us and what we call the pop-ups, nice people who were selling mobile phones one day and able to write a nice report the next day. They've spent time in industry, so they understand everything from robotics, automation, software. We even look after clients who have got a chicken farm. You wouldn't believe the amount of R&D goes into laying hens' eggs. Crazy. So here's what we're saying. R&D, who does it affect? As I said, it's for companies who are developing and manufacturing products. who are developing new process or installation methods. The product could be exactly the same, but how they have put the process together and how they install it is changing over time because constraints in space. And then even process improvements. I'll give you an example. There is a car mat factory in Wales. Very rarely do people buy car mats now, but when I was growing up and got my first car, you were spending 40, 50 pounds on rubber car mats because it was all your new car seats. They're still making the same mats that haven't changed. They had to get more efficient to get the raw product through the factory faster to make them more profitable. And that's a process improvement that people miss. You can see our experience lies there from software, aerospace, even concrete, even we look after vegetable growers. You wouldn't believe the R&D that goes into that. So there's the scientific and I can never say that. The scientific and technological advancement or uncertainties. Projects which seek to achieve an advance in science or technology. Or, as I said, the head scratch factor here as well. You can see that. At this point, is there any other questions, Liam? Is there anything you feel I should answer to at this point?
Just, are you going to go into more detail about sort of like the costs that you can put into a process improvement?
Yes. This last bit is absolutely spot on. So the reason why we're able to get bigger claims and we've never had a review, we go into a company and we're seen as a pseudo partner of sorts. We never talk about R&D in a client call. We talk about the work that is done there, which, as Emily was kindly saying, we minimize your time, your team's time. And look, even in claims that have been done, we have a 100% track record in uplifting claims. Software, we have a look at the guidelines through that. And that even has its own piece of legislation. But getting on to Joanna's point, we'll come down to here. So the costs that can be involved can even be down to time, pension, heat, life, consumables. And what we're able to do is understand what costs come out. Now, to give a one-off answer to what you said, Joanna, without going into the specifics of maybe Liam's or Ray's business or Adam's business or Jay's business, every company is going to be different. And that's what we do different to the pop-ups. There would be a lot of companies out there would put a piece of paper across the desk and say, give us your R&D, and they'll miss out. Sadly, to be specific on this point, the cost will be based on a percentage because HMRC is a trust piece rather than if you're going for grants. If we go backwards to this piece, we see HMRC as our real customer, and we write the reports and find the costs based on that to satisfy what they look for on your behalf. Does that kind of answer your question?
No, I was just because when you sort of like say about you can, so say for example, I guess really, I mean, without going into the detail, I guess what I was saying, so say you're a business that has brought in consultants to look at your processes, to improve them and to make them better because you're losing money or whatever, and that in its sense is a piece of R&D, isn't it?
It is indeed. It is.
So can you claim the consultants' costs, or is it the output of the R&D or the process that you can claim?
Both. Any subcontractor you bring in, now consultants are direct, depends on what activities that they've done in the project, and not all of their time will be claimable. However, for subcontracting costs, even the subcontractor can do a claim based on someone else's IP and someone else's project. It's split 65-35.
Yeah.
It never used to be that, but yes, you can claim for subcontractors. And those subcontractors don't necessarily need to be onshore. And it's also possible for a group of companies who have got different jurisdictions throughout the world can cross-charge and get R&D tax credits based on work done offshore.
Yeah, that answers it. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's what we go in, and that's the difficulty. And as Emily said, unless you know, all these guys will know your specific businesses. Could I go in and do an oil service on a car? Probably. Will it mess it up? Maybe. Would it get me past? Yes. But R&D with the legislation, can you get past it? Probably. Are you setting yourself at risk? by getting a review for something that's not quite right, more than likely, and that's what we come in and do. Okay, so I've said there, the benefits of claiming, as you can see there, even a loss-making company can make a claim on this. Now, what your R&D costs do, you get an uplift of 130% on your corporation tax, and it acts as a paper loss on your CT return, which lowers your tax. Now, I can show it to you here on a little bit of on the bigger one here. Now, an R&D RDEC is for companies over 500 employees, a bigger balance sheet. But the math sort of sits here, if you can see it, and what you can see my mouse. Your pre-R&D is what you would do, what your balance sheet looks like. But on the right here, your post-R&D will set this aside for your corporation tax. And it does, as you can see at the bottom here, if a company's paying nearly £900,000, the R&D cost with the uplift reduces that to 453. And in some cases, if they pay it back over 2 years, they will get cash money back. But you can see that's where the saving is. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, look, not a big technical piece, but what I would like to do is I'm going to take screen sharing off here and come back to the main part. Sadly for R&D, it is the legislation is pages and pages long that we help decipher, and we help you navigate that by writing the report. So have you got any examples that you think that I might be able to answer to now?
I guess if you could probably just, that the companies that we in this community, so could you just sort of walk through a hypothetical company? Because I still have trouble working out what is the R&D bit that's relevant.
Okay.
So if you take the thing of someone who's building some software for.
Okay, with software for their own legislation, software legislation changes regularly, because when you're able to claim on software, all developers will say, well, it's all R&D because I'm developing. That was true at the start. However, with that many software packages that you can buy off the shelf, that's not R&D because you're bringing software into your business. However, this is where it starts to get grey. You can buy a software package off the shelf to bring into your business, to make a phone system work, to make a ticketing system work, to get different locations to talk to itself, and it may not work. And that's where you have to work out how you can get all your locations put together and adding iterations to a pre-bought piece of software. The benchmark or the starting point and making it work is the difference. Now, there have been instances where people have said, well, I've taken this Excel spreadsheet or a paper process and I made this app just to put it online. It then becomes a bit grey. Well, that's not R&D. Just because you've taken some paper and putting it online and it looks like a development to make your efficiencies better for the business, it's not a technological or scientific advancement. Okay. So for instance, like Peter, I think I remember you done a was it Peter that done the presentation, Liam, about all the signal changes and the open train times in London a few months back? Something like that, the amount of time that was spent in getting that working together could, when I say could, count. I would need one of the technical directors to drill down and find that out. So in terms of hardware, people who actually are making trains faster, lighter, more efficient, it's R&D all day, every day, because you can actually see a physical product. It gets a bit hairy because software, you can't really, even though it's a lot of coding, it's up in the ether, you don't see it, and you have to make sure that advancement hasn't been in the marketplace before and it's new to the business. But then when we get into contradictions, it doesn't even need to be new to the marketplace, because let me give you an idea. I would sure there would be nearly a 50, 60, 40%, 50, 50, 60, 40% split between people who use iPhones and use a Samsung phone. Yeah. Both the same kind of phone, both smartphones, but Steve Jobs couldn't go down the road and go, hey, or Samsung couldn't go and, hey, look, how did you make your Apple phone? Look, they'll do one. There's, when you get into trade secrets and like engineering companies, who can make one widget and the other bring another widget out similar to it. They can't go down their own system on how to make that. They would have to go through their own iterations to get their own strength and their own projects. So it can't be new to your business if it's not on the open market, like a recipe to make courgette cake. You can't just download it. You have to find out your own way, really, you know. So I have to use your...
If I've amended my courgette cake recipe from Mary Berry's, can I then claim it as my own?
I would love to get a claim for that for you, Joanna. But your example of courgette cake and changing it, I would get put to jail for fraud. But like, I'm worth a go at it for you are. So, but that's the point. Just if there's something online, it's not a trade secret. If it's new to your business, it can be claimable.
Yeah. Are there given that a lot of people are finding out about this after the fact, are there things that they should have done at the start to make sure that they can claim later?
Great question. In R&D claims, you can, for a company that hasn't done a tax claim before, an R&D claim, they can go back 2 years. So for instance, we're in month of May. So May 20, we can still claim at the minute for years ended May 18 and May 19. Once we go to June the 1st, 18 drops off. So you can go back 2 years, okay? Even for a company who has made a claim before and we do reviews, we can still go back and review those last 2 years. Yeah, so, okay, there's been companies going longer than that and some of that money will be dropped off. Sad, but that's what it is. But there is still a time element that we can go back and look at it.
If there are like, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I meant in terms of, are there like setups or structures or decisions or recording that they should have done?
Yeah, and that's so I'm going to explain that. Even if it was a startup company, even a startup company in day one, we would love to speak to, even though we can't do a claim for a year's time, because you're quite correct. There will be stuff that even if we do a review after 2 years, because the recording's been different. Now I'm going to talk about 2 different pieces of recording. The recording of the data. Lots of companies think, oh, it's too much task, we'll have to write this down. You don't really, because it's not like a plan for a grant. This is a trust element of HMRC. We help write the report. So the recording of all the specifics and every widget and every screw and every piece of metal that was used doesn't have to be tracked because we can break it down in percentage and make the project. And as long as it's commercially sound, we can do that. Now, there are companies that do track it, and because they have to as part of their business, fine. But in a startup business, and even if we do review, we help companies understand what they need to look for down the road to allow them to make a legal, decent and honest claim. Let me give you, for instance, I keep referring to widgets. I do that because some of the IP that I wouldn't, if you came to me, we wouldn't share with any other company. That's just standard. But there was a company who had developed a widget, but it was their thought process, and they brought in a subcontractor to help them develop it and then consequently manufacture it. So within that, the manufacturing piece, the invoice came back for 1 million widgets, and the invoice said 1 million widgets. Now, when you need to prove that was for manufacturing. So it is reasonable enough to ask, and the company say, well, break down this invoice to say £50,000 of it was for R&D costs and 50,000 was for the manufacturing. Like if you've agreed a price, it doesn't matter what it's split, and then that becomes a legal qualification. Even simple things like traveling for research and development. Now, not all travel will be qualified, but there are loopholes that we help companies understand. For instance, if you're traveling to, I don't know, Romania or somewhere for a software house, and that was part of the research, if your company have paid that directly for your flights and hotel, etc., it is not claimable. However, if you claim it, if you pay for it on your personal credit card and claim it right back from the company the next day, it becomes an expense, even though it's the same cost. It is a loophole. They know why they're doing it. It becomes like a benefit of kind, and it is claimable. So there's simple things that we look like for that. So there's very different variations within. So you get asked questions, and there will be an answer for every one, Liam. So is any more? Someone's typed in Deb Carson. What have you typed? Yeah.
Does this apply to R&D around development of a new process or a new approach? maybe a product but not a single item, like a framework?
Yes, it will do. In some cases, yes, it will. Answering that on a basic, and I'm sorry to, but like a solicitor accountant, we need to know the detail, and we can ask the questions around that to give the proper advice. But on that, does this apply to R&D around the development of a new process or a new approach? It may be a product, but not a single item. Yes, it will. It could be like a framework. Yeah, it could do, without knowing the specifics yet.
So if this is so, sorry, I'm dominating the question and answer. If this is such a good thing and such a thing to stimulate R&D in the UK, why is it such an obscure thing that people don't understand and that the HMRC hasn't communicated better?
The amount of communication the HMRC have put out is unreal. However, when you get the weird one, well, if I make a claim for the HMRC for £200,000 worth of costs, and they're going to give me £52,000 back on that, for example, and the next year I'm going to have the HMRC coming in to review my books, my accounts, see whether it's true or not. Sadly, there's not a lot of trust in the HMRC, which make your own views. I believe in them. Now, they do get things wrong, don't get me wrong, and we all don't want to pay taxes, but when they're wanting to give you money, all of a sudden they're not trusted. But it is partly because, and a lot because, clients, customers, engineering companies think it doesn't apply to them, and then when we're speaking to them, they think they're going to be scammed. You know, it's the kind of stuff we're living in. You know, there's that many scams going on with everything in life, Liam, that people have got a problem trusting. And the way we work contingent. We don't charge any money until they get the claim money back in their account.
Right. Anyone else?
Sorry, then. Is there anybody feels? Look, I look after the relationship, and you know the technical advice will never be strong with me, and I know where my weaknesses lie. However, has this felt to you that that's helped me to make a decision whether you should go back to your companies and say, why do we not make R&D claims? Should we look at this? Does it give you enough sort of confidence to go, yeah, we should be making a claim on this?
Because around my earlier question about the process and that, because presumably if you're looking at a business improvement plan and you're going to be reviewing your whole company processes as part of a discovery phase, shall we say, in R&D, presumably that can help the business case if you can get tax credit.
It can, in some reviewing processes, and again, I need to put a caveat around this, Johanna, that not all processes will count. You know, how you write something and put a ticket through doesn't count. But, and this is where it gets grey again. Imagine one of your business development people went out to a company and you were doing some sort of system for them for ticketing, or to make new tracks out of bamboo or paper towels or whatever. That conversation and coming back to a project meeting and talking to the designers even counts. That time even counts, even though it's just conversation. So you can see the many little grey areas within this legislation that we help decipher. So it's just the only thing I would say to you guys is what I say to my sales guys that work for me: never assume a client hasn't got R&D. You know, because we would rather talk to someone and qualify them out than them not talking to us at all and them losing money or not knowing for sure. We have got a lot of plastics companies, engineering, fish processing. You can have two fish processors side by side. One will have stacks of R&D and one will have very little, because it actually depends on the each individual business, and that's what makes it harder to be specific about every point.
Robin, I've got just another question, and I apologize if you've touched on this because I had to answer a call at some point in the middle of this. But
Sure.
Is there any kind of on the horizon any kind of likelihood of the government leveraging other bits of kind of government policy around this? I'm thinking of you know, meeting their net zero carbon targets, for example? Is there, you know, is there any kind of move towards kind of having this kind of support as, like, you know, having sort of a focus in specific kind of innovation that might help us reach those targets, for example, and you know, a bit more targeted, I'm thinking?
There could well be, but as being part, I think it'll, who knows what the government will do. You don't know. I don't even know what's going to happen on Sunday. So, but
well, that was going to be my other question. Is this sort of help going to be come under scrutiny when the Treasury start to look at where they're going to get their £1 trillion bailout back, basically?
Okay, well, I'll try and answer that in two parts. The part with the say for carbon emissions and stuff like that, it will be jointly and severally tied, I would say, because there will, if a company, even if a company gets a grant from an invest organisation like a Scottish Enterprise or Invest NI or any of the multitudes of different councils, you can still make a claim even though you've got a grant. So that's where it becomes jointly and severally tied. Sorry, I use my hands a lot. If I didn't have my hands, I wouldn't be able to talk. You can make claims as you go along. So the R&D legislation may sit along different things, and they'll find a way to interweave it and bring that across. Yeah. In terms of what happens to get money back into the government for all the money that they've spent in loans and furloughs and grants, my feeling is R&D legislation, as long as the Conservative government are in power just now, will stay, and it'll probably be even enhanced, because what they'll need to do is it's like they will need to run at industry to start building up the workforce again, and they will get their money back through PAYE. Sadly though, companies will be paying more corporation tax as well. So that's why it's joining. There will be always this incentive to make a claims as long as it's legal, decent and honest. But I think taxes will come in all different forms, for VAT maybe going up, or petrol, whatever. But as far as I would like to, I would dare say that R&D will be enhanced a little bit. That's a feeling. Don't hold me to that. Great question, though.
Well, probably a lot of people that work within this space get funding from grants and places like Innovate UK. So where does that sit within this?
I exasperated, said I was more exasperated myself. So let me give you an example in terms of an alphabet. Okay, so a grant will cover certain things from A to F, and the R&D corporation, the R&D tax credits will cover from C to M. That little bit in crossover may not be able to, but there's stuff outside that. How we put that down in the paperwork and explain that through the project, why this is offset and the grant's offset against that, it becomes a paperwork exercise and becomes a mathematical problem. And it's deciphering what part of that is on those loans can be claimed against, and can be even in some cases double claimed. It's one for the tax expert, not me, sadly. But you know, we do give advice. We just don't come in and do an R&D claim. If we see where a company, as Liam maybe asked earlier on, what things that could be changed and to make them more tax efficient, we do show them that, from RDAs to capital allowances. We actually just don't go in and sit on our own surface. We go in and we see everything different, and that's a value add. That's not an extra expense. That's what we do as part of our process.
Just ate my packet of Monster Munch, so I can now talk again.
I'm out of Monster Munch. I didn't get any for this week. It's sad, isn't it?
That's a massive oversight, Johanna.
I know, I did think about just getting a glass of wine instead.
This isn't Dad Coke.
So, Robin, if you had like a top tip for companies, what would it be?
Top tip will affect companies who are claiming. is have no fear in getting it reviewed. We'd love to talk to you, and we'd show you, even if you don't use us, we'd be happy to point you in the right direction, because ultimately it's money back into the economy. Secondly, a company that isn't doing it, whether they think they do or they don't, go and ask someone, but always stick to a regulated tax advisor. Please, whatever you do, don't be going to a pop-up. Check their credentials, check that they know what they're doing with tax, because that's where you fall into trouble. Because I forget who, maybe Dave asked it, or someone, HMRC are very trusting, but if they smell a rat, they'll come after it.
Okay, brilliant.
So is it best to use somebody as advice rather than do it yourself?
Absolutely. But, you know, there are companies that do it in-house by chartered accountants in-house, you know, proper financial directors, not just by name, and they're still missing out because they're not exposed to it as a specialism. Okay. You know, it's going back to the car mechanic analogy. Everybody can tinker, everybody can have a go, but if you don't have a computer set up and know the legislation inside out and how one part of the car talks to the other, you can fudge it up, or you can get away with it and the car becomes less efficient. And sadly, in-house, they don't want to spend the money, because we're not the cheapest in the marketplace, but the amount of value that we bring back, we bring more money back to our clients than other pop-ups would do, or other accountants would do, and it becomes a value piece. It's, you know, the old adage, pay cheap, pay twice. Well, you know, that's the way we work.
I was just going to ask as well, given you say you're not the cheapest in the market, because obviously accountancy advice doesn't come cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So how does a startup find value in these services?
Okay, so on the fact that we're not the cheapest in the marketplace, we write every report. We don't expect our clients to do anything bar sit down for a couple of meetings, 45 minutes, a couple of times in a month, and we go in and do all the work. That's why we're investing a lot of our IP. A startup, as I said or alluded to earlier on, we do not have a minimum cost. If we do not get money back from the HMRC, we do not charge. So we take our percentage or our charges out of the money that comes back. So it makes it a cash flow positive for a startup or a already business that's running. They're not going to be out any money until they get, because in some cases it can take 6 to 12 weeks before the HMRC pay money back. So we're not expecting a company to pay us while they wait for their money. We're in this together with them, and it's part of our process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does. Yeah, so is it with no win, no fee?
Yeah, but we're professionals. It's contingency. You know, no win, no fee. I'm not an ambulance chaser.
But and you're dealing with a specific part of the market, so you're not doing the whole account. You're only doing that tax claim.
Correct. Yeah, but look, you know what? As I said from the start, we want to give SMEs. Now we do, as you say, a 4.8 billion Spanish. This company is a huge company we deal with, and we've got some great brand names that we deal with. But if one of our clients rings it up and wants to ask to speak to either Richards or the guys on the phone, and they're looking at a bit of advice, we don't hit a chess clock to start a timer and go, well, that's going to cost you £67 because I spent 8 minutes on the phone with you. We believe in what we do. We believe in sporting, and we know that our clients will refer us on. We want to become part of their business, and if they grow, we grow. And it's you could say that it's a little bit just going after everything, but we believe in relationships. We're not just a once a year chartered accountancy practice. Do your accounts and say, see you next year. Thanks very much.
Good. I think that's a good place for us to call it a day. Thank you very much, Robin. And for anyone who wasn't aware, there was supposed to be 2, so you just run it by yourself.
Yeah, I'll explain that this is why, you know, the technical questions going, no more technical questions. Suggested to Liam, if you guys have got any technical questions, you understand you maybe not want to ask them in the open, Liam will share my details. I think we're on the site. You get your free hour. We'll do that. We'll do one-to-ones. And if there's an appetite for it, we'll do this again maybe in a month's time and really make it deep down and technical and ask specifics, and then you'll know for sure. So as I caveated at the start, I'm just the face of the operation, you know. So now you can see me. I usually say on conference calls and people laugh, but now you've seen my face. You're just laughing at it rather than the joke. But you know, if there's appetite, we will certainly look after you. No expectations. One wins, we all win.
Brilliant.
Liam, thank you for the offer of doing this. I really appreciate it.
Well, no, thank you for informing us.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I need to confirm next week's, but it will probably be next Wednesday lunchtime. If you're around, we look forward to seeing you then.
Perfect, guys.
Okay.
Have a
Great.
great day.
Thanks, Liam. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
See you
everyone.
later.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.